been like over a year since we hung out in Nashville there for a bit.
Yeah.
And it's been cool to see what you've been doing. But I'm excited to kind of pick your brain. So, you're for background, you've been doing video for how long now? Like,
I started when I was in elementary school doing little skate videos. So
nice.
it's been my whole life. Yeah.
Skate videos are the place to start, it seems. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
definitely. Since like middle school, I've just been addicted to YouTube as like an entertainment platform, and it really has been like my hobby since I was a kid is just following these different creators and all the different ways that you can entertain people on that platform and build like a personal relationship with them. I've always been drawn to that and never really in the sense of like I wanted to do it for myself, but I knew a long time ago that I've gotten this wealth of knowledge from spending so much time on this platform without really trying to learn, the SEO or anything like that. Just knowing like, hey, this is what works because this is what's been working for me for over a decade now on the creators I watch and how they attract me.
Yeah.
Um, and so I've always wanted to partner up with a company or a brand or a creator and try to figure out how to work together to make their goals happen. And BuildWitt was the first one that gave me that real opportunity that said, "Hey, here are the keys to the truck, drive." And so yeah, it was all it was all just like the any startup. It's building a plane in the air, for lack of better terms, but it is yeah, it really clicked like right off the bat. It really clicked of like, man, you have learned how to do this without really ever having any work experience. So I kind of just hit the ground running
Yeah.
whenever I was handed the keys. So
Yeah, there's like that element of osmosis, right? It's what it sounds like where you've been so embedded in the platform just as a consumer, but
mhm.
also as someone who works in, like in the industry as well, where you can kind of build all those kind of maybe theories in advance and then get a chance to try them and say like, I think this is how it should go.
Yeah, and
And then,
I've kind of had that thought a lot about this specifically about, but also how far you could branch that out to like, why are we sending kids to school for 4 years? Imagine if a mechanic job shadowed another mechanic and watched him every day for 4 years. You don't
yeah,
think he could wrench on a truck? Again, back to trucks. I don't know why I'm truck heavy today, but
yeah,
like, you don't think he could properly wrench on a truck after 4 years, day one? Of course he could.
yeah,
He's seen it. So I do think that osmosis learning, about something that you're already interested in, you're already spending a lot of time watching, is a great way to go into a career or, to find
yeah,
something you enjoy.
absolutely. Man, I get fired up on that topic. I, I agree 100%. And like, I love to see people who don't have that, like, they didn't go through a course or they didn't have the formal education, but they have the like exposure, and then they can get in and be like, hey, like nobody told me this is how it should be done. I know that this is the right way to do it because I've kind of been here before.
Yeah.
Even if you weren't in the driver's seat, I love that, and I think that's going to be huge as we move into kind of a new. I don't know if this is like too big picture, but like a new era of people, acquiring new skills, especially as like the need for talent changes with technology changes and all this stuff. Like, there's going to be a lot of that where people who traditionally wouldn't be considered great fits for a role all of a sudden are exactly the right person because they've just been in the right environment that
hmm
exposes them to the right stuff.
Yeah. It's the redneck, expression of it. It's not dumb if it works.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you know, yeah,
Yeah.
we're all just trying to figure it out. No one really knows.
Yeah.
So
So going into it, when you're like starting off brand new with a YouTube channel that was already like had regular videos, somewhat regular videos going up, and traffic and views and stuff. But like, what was your mindset going in of like how we can take it to the next level or what we can do next?
yeah, right off the rip, I focused on what things needed to be improved that we could change today, right then. And again, it's like, you're doing it for your career. So it's a little bit of like your hat's in the ring, even though you're trying to build someone else, you're trying to make yourself look good. And so immediately I said, okay, our thumbnails aren't grabbing attention. I know if anyone that's worked with me in the BuildWitt, sphere is like, oh, Chase is the thumbnail guy. But that really is the superpower behind it. The thumbnails, we were uploading irregularly, like once every other week, maybe. And I was like, we gotta kick that up. And if nothing else, we just need to be more regular with it so that our audience knows when they can expect a new piece of content coming from the company. That I think putting in a little bit more personality of Aaron or of Eric or Angel, whoever was in the videos, showing a little bit more of them, still focusing on the machines, obviously. But if you can build a relationship with the person you're seeing, you care more about anything that you're showing. So imagine if you knew the ShamWow guy when, they were selling towels, you'd be more inclined to, buy a towel. So yeah, I think that's influence. That's influence, baby. Is you can show them what you want to show them and tell the stories you want to tell, but at the end of the day, the audience cares about you. And so I think I just wanted to push those chips a little bit further into the table.
Yeah, exactly, and that's huge. Like that's I'm trying to encourage people who aren't creators currently, like people who are on job sites, which we got to see a lot of at BuildWitt. Even people like Eric that came from the field and were moving into creator roles, but we also saw people that like one of my favorite guys on TikTok. I don't spend time on TikTok anymore, but TikTok, my favorite like creator there was the what's his name now? Man, I'm blanking. Hard hat guy. With Mr. George.
Yeah. What is his name?
Man, all right, I'm going to put it in the video. I feel terrible that I actually forgot his name because he's like my favorite.
He's a legend. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. He's a legend, and he's on a job site every day. Like he's not like he's not a creator in the sense that he, lives in California and travels to job sites to do a video. Like he's working, and I'm so excited to see. And there's already a lot of these people, but to like see them and get more exposure for people who are like in construction and in the industry, who are just sharing like who they are and what they experience as stuff, instead of like creating a separate category of people who are creators or who just visit job sites. Like that kind of stuff has to happen, but I think there's room for voices in the industry, so much room for voices in the industry that are in the field, who have stuff to share, who have experience and like learned knowledge and the osmosis and like environmental stuff, that in that environment they can see things and share things that we're never going to see if it's just videographers showing up to a job site and trying to spread the 100%. Decades of knowledge that are kind of locked up in people's brains.
Yeah, 100%. My favorite part of the vlogs in any vlog would be whenever Aaron had his mic on, but usually, it's a lav, so it's tucked into his shirt. You don't immediately see it. My favorite thing was whenever I was 100 yards away with a zoom lens and catching him talking to somebody, because they were just being themselves. They didn't have to, so they're explaining the job to Aaron in a way that they'd just be explaining it to a colleague on the site. Yeah. And those moments are so good. And I think I was always chasing those little conversations because those are what make it real and like relatable to the people in the field.
Yeah, exactly. Man, I'm really curious, like on that topic. So you guys did such a fantastic job with the content of those videos, to take a subject that like, well, there's a lot of people who care about equipment and care about job sites. Like it was mind blowing to me to watch videos about heavy haul trucks and like, and job sites in the middle of nowhere that were getting 1 million+ views. Like what is so what was your approach? You mentioned the thumbnails, which I remember like having conversations about this. You were definitely the thumbnail guy, and I love that piece of like that part of this. But what else goes into making a video about trucks that gets 1 million+ views? Like how does that work?
Yeah, it's interesting because I didn't come from construction at all. I'd never thought about it, cared about it. It slowed me down when I was on the highway driving. You know, like I never really put any thought into it. So coming into this job and learning the mission of the company, but also the importance of the industry, I think was huge. And so whenever I was stepping onto a job site to film any video for BuildWitt, um, I was just thinking about how do I capture the story of how this ties into society as a whole. So whenever I was in the field and working with Aaron or Eric, whoever it was, and giving them direction, that was the question I was often trying to prompt to get out of them. Aaron can talk about machines all day or the process of how they're trying to do what they're trying to do, which is great, and that's what our fans wanted to hear. But in order to get non-construction people in there, I was constantly saying, "Hey, man, so why does this matter? What's the big thing?" And I think that's changed the way I shoot video now. I've been gone for 6 months from BuildWitt, and every time I'm on a shoot, that's what's in the back of my mind. And it's funny that after 8 years in this career of videography, I'm just now thinking in terms of that of why should the average person care, not just the one who's going to click this video no matter what, you know?
Yeah, fascinating, right? Like expanding the potential audience out beyond just the raving fans. I love
Yeah.
it.
And that too, it plays into the whole YouTube game, which I need to coin that. It plays into the whole YouTube game of, like grabbing someone's attention in the first 10, 15 seconds. How can we just blow them out of the water with B-roll or just some insane fact about what's happening there or whatever it is? How do we, sink our hooks in right off the rip so that they'll stay for this content that they're not necessarily, bought into yet? And
Yeah.
again, it's like I was always making content not for the construction people because they're going to watch it because we were going to the coolest job sites on earth. Aaron's still
Yeah.
going to the coolest job sites on earth.
Yeah.
They're going to watch, but how do we make non-construction people care? And that was the greatest part of that job were the comments that were saying, "I'm a banker, I have no reason to care about this, and I come back every week." Those were the comments that were like, "We did it." Like
Yeah.
that was the mission of the company, but also that became my mission as a person was to tell people these stories, and that's it's still what I'm passionate about. I look forward to going to a job site anytime I can just to tell those stories. So
Yeah. And so, like you mentioned, like you guys were going to mind-blowing job sites, crazy stuff, like overseas in the oil sands in Canada and like all over the place. So you did some huge stuff, but you also went to like smaller job sites as well. Sometimes there was a lot of variety in that. With for like the construction company that's maybe not on like the world's biggest job sites, right? But they're still like they still have active projects and they want to share their story. What are the things that like make a story interesting besides having a world record square feet or dirt moved or whatever? Like how do you tell a story as an average contractor or somebody who's not going to win a Guinness World Record for the project we're on right now?
yeah, I think at the end of the day, and again, this is like you kind of have to get into the industry a little bit to really like get this. But in the day to day, as like a laborer on like a neighborhood's going in, and we're there to document the earthwork and maybe the pipe crew and just whatever water's going on the site or whatever. I think to me, it's always keeping in the back of your mind of like, yeah, this guy's putting one stick of pipe in the ground and it's taking them 10, 15 minutes to attach this one stick, and they're solving all these little bitty problems that as a videographer standing at the top of the trench, I'm just like, huh. But you have to zoom out a little bit of not just what am I filming right now, but it's like, no, these people are about to allow 160 families to flush their toilet or to turn their sink on or to turn the lights on or just have a place to come home and sleep at the end of the day. And so that's what you have to find in those little stories is even to the laborer that's in there at the time, they're not thinking about that. They're thinking about solving, the rubber gasket has a leak that, in the two pipes that they're trying to connect. How do we solve that? But I think constantly reminding, not just in construction, but in any job, constantly reminding your team and yourself of what the big picture is while focusing on the little things, I think makes every moment, all the more important. And those are the stories that, again, that on those little job sites, that's kind of where I was trying to push story.
Yeah.
How does this tie into the world?
Yeah, exactly. And so you mentioned like the worker that's on the job site as well, right? Like your pipe fitter, your laborer. Some of the stories that we tell are for the broader, like for the world industry, to educate the world about the industry. But there's also the number one topic that always comes up in construction is a lack of people in the industry right now. What are your thoughts from the perspective of someone who's telling stories about the industry? What are your thoughts of how companies can do that, how individuals can do that in a way that can like tell the stories we need to tell to get people to want to be a part of the industry?
I think it's simple, and it's been, BuildWitt's mission for a long time, and the word is definitely starting to get out as I've gotten out of the BuildWitt sphere and I'm talking to these different companies, or even just the different marketing companies that are, that have followed Aaron for a while and said, hey, I want to do this too. I want to tell these stories. It's just getting them to do, like you said, like y'all have to be the ones to tell your story. You can hire marketing companies, you can hire a kid with an iPhone to come to your job site once a week. You can do that, but you have to figure out how you can organically tell your company's story regularly. And I think that's how you're going to attract, more work to your company, because why are they going to go to you versus anyone else? If they have that relationship with you, that's influence, baby. So that's how you get those people in the job. That's how you get people in the seats of the cab. It's just, again, it's making them care about you, your company, and your mission, and communicating all of that regularly. I think that's going to be the key to growth for this next chapter. And I know that sounds, if you follow a company like BuildWitt, that's kind of beaten into your head, but it really is the truth. And there's a reason that all of us that have worked there will keep repeating that long after, if they're still with BuildWitt, if they leave BuildWitt, whatever. It's like that mission isn't going to change for a long, long time. Like, we need this workforce. So to me, that's paramount.
Yeah, exactly. And it, like reinforcing what you're saying, I have conversations on the marketing side of things. People will ask me questions about marketing. I'm sure you get questions about, YouTube or about video. And a lot of times it's tactical questions. People want to know, like, should I post on Facebook or LinkedIn, or should I have, like, do I need to be on TikTok, or do I need to do this or that? Like, should we be running this other thing? And I always encourage people, I love, like, tying back to what you were saying, like, let's back out from, it doesn't really matter, like, should you be on TikTok is a question that can't be answered until you understand, like, what's the story that you're trying to tell and who are you telling it to. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know who those people are, then you don't know if they are on TikTok. They might be, they might not be. And or you don't know if you should have long form or short form videos. You don't know, like, don't worry about tactics. First, figure out who are you trying to talk to, and then how can you tell them stories that, and like, how can you share with them, like you said about influence, like, and I've been using the word reputation for people. Like, don't worry about building a brand. Build a reputation with the right people. It feels simpler to just say, like, they just need to know who you are. Mm-hmm. Start sharing that with them. So I love that.
Who you are and why you're doing it. Like, those are the two things. Figure those two things out. Content will come so much quicker once you set those two guidelines. It's I think people often overthink, well, should we do how-to videos once a week on how to do something, or should we do an employee spotlight, or what should we do? And it's like, well, why are you doing it? And then work backwards. It's just the content will flow naturally, and you'll start thinking in terms of, oh yeah, this is what I would like to see hit that topic in a new angle or a new light. It's nice to have a target rather than walking onto a site with an iPhone and being like, okay, I'm the owner of this business, and today I have to get something out here. What am I gonna get?
Yeah, exactly. And I think I think it can be distracting from, and this is just from a perspective of a marketer, but like I haven't been in video, very deeply into that space, but I know like a lot of times from the outside, you can see the marketing that a company does, like the videos that BuildWitt's puts up, or videos that some of the, the big contractors in the industry will put up videos that are like drone shot of a big project and a cool, like, mounted a GoPro onto a, piece of equipment and we got this cool shot. All of that stuff is great, but it can be distracting because you get caught up in the, well, how can we mount a GoPro on something that we have, which is not the point of the story. Mm-hmm. Those, you can figure out the tactical stuff once you get the why down. Mm-hmm. And then all of that stuff can come in and the creativity can be there. But if you try and jump into the creativity side of it without knowing what story you're trying to tell in the first place, you get the cart before the horse.
Exactly. That was a part of every day, filming the vlogs the way we did. We didn't exactly have, a written out agenda for what we were showing up on a job site to shoot. So it was nice. It was a nice part of every day where we would show up to the job site. I would put my basic camera rig together. I wasn't running around with a gimbal. I was shooting all handheld for the sake of being nimble and whatever. But my favorite part of the day was walking around that morning with a coffee in one hand, my camera in the other, kind of lazily, and just watching or hearing, the foreman tell us what's going on, and really studying, like, okay, where are the stories, what's happening, who are the people involved, and how do we best cover that. So taking that first, 30 minutes to an hour every day just to figure out what's going on before you even hit record, I think is huge too. You're not going to know every day what you're going out there to shoot. In fact, most of the time, I think you're not really going to know. Yeah. So I think to me, that's huge. Learn the story, learn what's going on, and then attack.
Yeah, exactly. And that's in construction, like that's the case. And I think talking with people who shoot video on construction sites, like that's what happens every time you show up to the job site. You don't know what's going to be happening. Weather might change something, a sub might have a change, there might be a schedule change. So you can't just, it's not like we're shooting a pre-written script here. Mm-hmm. But having the story, like having the big picture story figured out allows us to be flexible there. With what you guys were doing, so I got the impression that you were moving pretty quick. Oh, yeah. And I remember conversations with you about about having to hand off, a vlog from one job while you're flying to, overseas or other side of the country to shoot on another job. Like, what kind of workflow or mindset do you have to have when you're not, it's not like you have a month to produce this video. You're turning videos around. At the time, it was like multiple times a week.
Yeah, with a team as small as ours, you really have to get comfortable with living in chaos for a while. So, especially when we were doing twice a week uploads, which I still look back on that time. I know there's people that were in BuildWitt that are like, you guys are too stressed, but I think even now, if you were to go back and ask me or Chell, if you could go back to one point in time, whenever things were going, bonkers, we would both go back to that time, because that chaos is comforting when you know that you're going to get results at the end of the day, and you're going to grow, and you're going to be able to track that growth and see that growth every day. That was huge. So it was a little bit like that. You asked about the workflow. So I would be in the field shooting. My title was director. Me and Chell worked as a team, a lot of the times managing the editors. So the workflow would be, I would shoot in the field, gather up all that footage throughout the week of shooting, organize it for the editor. As soon as I'd get back, we'd give it to the editors. We'd delegate. We had a rotating bench of about 7 guys that whoever had free time that week, we could hand projects off to. We'd give it to them. They would send us a V1. Me and Chell would both watch that V1, and I would say Chell would be watching it from like a safety perspective as someone in the industry, and as somebody who also, he's a super talent with a camera, so he's also watching for a little bit of the same things I am. I'm more so watching for, would I watch this video as a non-construction guy? Are we playing the game? Is it hooky in the first few seconds? Is there ever a lull in the video? How can we make that lull disappear? And really just like flow of a story and of a narrative and of just constant, retention. Am I going to click off this video? So the way we would work was very, cohesive in that we were looking for different things on that V1. So I would talk to Chell. Chell would then get with the editor and oversee the V2, the V3, oftentimes the V4 of the video, really ironing it out. And then whenever the final one would come through, I would watch it once over. And the reason that was the workflow was because we were shooting all the time. So I needed Chell to be able to review these videos and work with these editors daily and do that. I think ultimately if we could do it again, having two Chells would have made everything just so much smoother. There will never be two Chells because Chell's the ultimate being, on the earth. But I think that's something that, as far from a workflow perspective, that would have lightened both of our loads tremendously. And then from there, so once we had a locked in final version, I would start thinking thumbnail and title. How are we going to get the most people to click on this without over promising? That's the biggest thing, is that with YouTube specifically, but also with any social media, even LinkedIn, it's, this term clickbait gets thrown around a lot in the space. And to me, this is what I kind of had to try to convince Chell over time and convince Aaron. Aaron was easygoing. Aaron was very cool with, really anything we did. He never had a ton of pushback. But it was always convincing Chell, we're not clickbaiting people if we're delivering on what we're saying. So sure, we can inflate our words, we can, dramatize the thumbnail, but as long as that action takes place in the video and the viewer doesn't leave being like, you lied, that you were never on an airport runway, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
It happened. It's in the video. Planes were coming and going and landing, and these trucks were turning, so people need to kind of lose that mindset of, I feel like I'm lying or being disingenuous to my audience. You need to be more creative in the ways that you are, baiting them into the video, because at the end of the day, if your video is not getting clicked on and seen, then you're not telling your story.
Yeah.
So it's just, again, it's the game you have to play of how do we get, how do we grab attention right now? How can we make them get it immediately? From 1 second of seeing the thumbnail, the preview, whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. And that's that. It's different on every platform, but with YouTube, for example, the way I best understand it, a big part of the reason why thumbnails are so huge and so important for YouTube is that you don't have a captive audience. It's not like a newsletter where you're guaranteed to show up in front of people. Part of your job, or part of the job of the thumbnail, is to convince people who have other options that this is the option they need to pick.
Exactly.
And that's when you say, when you talk about the feeling like clickbait or feeling afraid to get dramatic, I guess, with the story or with the thumbnail. That's huge. I think Seth Godin wrote a whole book, but he titled the book All Marketers Are Liars. And then he actually, interesting story was he tried to sell that book and it didn't sell until he rebranded it to All Marketers Tell Stories, which was the point of his book. And if you read the book, it's fantastic. But his point was, no matter what we're doing, when we're trying to influence someone, we're trying to convince someone, or bring them along on a journey, we are telling them a story, and most of the time it's a story about something that doesn't currently exist. If we talk about a big picture thing, we're trying to convince them this is the way the world should be, or this is the way, this is what's happening, or that what we are going to make happen. And so in a sense, we're lying because we're not describing the current state. We're describing a future state that isn't here yet. And I think that resonates with me a lot when I think about telling stories, because you're absolutely right. Like, we have to deliver. We cannot, like, clickbait is a huge problem, and it builds up these walls for us where we, it's just like reading a ChatGPT written comment or post. Like, at this point, I can pick those out a mile away. It's just like you can scroll past them and know, oh, ChatGPT wrote that. We build up, as humans, like, we build up these barriers and protection against clickbait that doesn't deliver.
Mm-hmm.
But we never build up barriers against compelling stories that do deliver. And then especially when you talk about, like, the influence and building reputation, like, over time, we can then build the trust to be able to tell those stories and not have the barriers, right? Like, we can break through the distrust and discontent by building a reputation with them, by building influence over time.
And and I think you're spot on. I think there were times where we would have disagreements because someone on the team didn't think we should be spending the time and the effort on, because it would take a whole hour and a half to get one thumbnail and title nailed down really well. I was working with Chell. I was also working with Pat and Nathan at the time. We had a small little group, and you were in there for a while.
Yeah,
and you would just be really collaborative on what's going to drive views. But I think there were times where people perceived that as a time waste because we could be editing a video or shooting another video. But the reality for our videos our mission for the videos was to grow to people outside of construction. And so there's people on YouTube. I mean, there's people on social media. Let's Dig 18 is a great example. Chris Ewens.
Yeah.
His thumbnail is a random, GoPro still from his video. The thing is, Chris Ewens isn't trying to reach a huge broad audience. He's trying to reach his followers, people that are in the industry. And so they don't necessarily need that clickbait, that, like, I gotta see this thing, whatever it is. He can just get away with that. For me, I knew that our mission was always to reach people outside. And so that's why I put that, the time and the effort in with my little team of how do we do that? How do we hit harder and outside of just our specific audience that's already watching the videos?
Yeah, exactly. That's it's so fascinating to me. Like, there's a whole rabbit hole that you can go down for someone who hasn't spent time building a YouTube channel. But I've watched. I know you and I have talked about some of the Mr. Beast interviews and things like that, like of YouTube creators who really are deeply involved in optimizing and, like, understanding how YouTube works as a creator and as a consumer. It's fascinating to watch. Even now, like, I watch my kids interact on YouTube, so they have, like, a YouTube Kids account, and watch them, like, go through, and it's the same. Like, it's little tiny brains reacting to the same thing that we react to. Just a different stage, right? Like, they like bright video, bright thumbnails. They like thumbnails that have, creative or unusual stuff in them. They also respond, like, to characters or people, whether real or fictional, that they know, right? Like, those are, that's building that reputation and building the stickiness so that they come back. But then they're always, and some of these kids YouTube creators are mind blowing, and how well they do this and how much they understand the game that they're playing. But it's always about that, like, understanding your audience.
Humans love that repetition and those patterns, and so once you have a formula or a look or a style or a color scheme or even just a character in your thumbnail, you have to continue delivering that and always evolving it. Never stagnate. But at the same time, when you scroll through the thumbnails from the videos we were doing at the time, there is a consistency look that you can literally watch evolve as you scroll, of how it's constantly shifting a little bit, but over the course of 2-3 weeks, thumbnails look really consistent. And so that's, that's something I would advise too, is, make a bit of a formula in the beginning. You can shotgun blast it, try a bunch of stuff. But once you find something that you like, that you can repeat, that's generating views, stick with it. A little inside YouTube here. In 2 or 3 months, YouTube is rolling out ABC testing on thumbnails. So you can actually upload 3 thumbnails at a time, and it will serve different thumbnails to different people. And after the course of a week or some time period, it will choose the best performing one for you. And that's where jobs like mine get really exciting, because now I can hone in, my craft all the more, and I become even more of a asset to a company that's looking to grow, or, for consulting or whatever it is, to show, what should those 3 options be? How different should we make them? What style should we do? So
Yeah.
I'm really, really looking forward to that next chapter. I'm doing a lot of YouTube consulting right now, for a few companies, and it's really, really exciting to see, people who, unlike you or me, have just never thought about it.
Yeah.
And it's so fun sitting in these meetings and hearing the, like, oh, you can, it's super rewarding, and makes you
Yeah.
feel like, all right, I did learn something. I do know this thing that is
Yeah.
kind of, niche, but, valuable to these companies.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm going with this, but
No,
it's
I think that's like, I'm so excited for that development, because for people who are like not in YouTube specifically, or maybe not familiar with A/B testing and marketing, like A/B testing is a huge part of most big marketing teams. On a website or on different like ad platforms. A/B testing allows us to like show two different versions of the same thing to different groups of people, and then find out which one works better. And it's huge and powerful when it's done right. But YouTube with thumbnails has historically just not been an option. Like, you could kind of hack your way through, and maybe you can fill me in on this, but I know some people would like change thumbnails out partway through and see if the video performed better, but it wasn't a real like apples to apples comparison of options.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, I forget what the percentage is, but if they don't click on your video the first time it's on their homepage, if they miss it, when you refresh your YouTube homepage, chances are that video is not going to be there anymore. So the importance of nailing it right off the rip is huge. So even if you did A/B test it, and you ran one thumbnail the first day while it's popping up on all these people's feeds, and then did a different one the next day just to see which one performed better, it's not apples to apples, because you've already popped up on hundreds of thousands of people's homepages that didn't click it, and now that you've changed it, they'll just never see it.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really excited about that, and it's something that I wish we would have had back in the day,
Yeah.
when we were doing our A/B testing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating, like little things that most people won't have any clue that happens, but I think it helps us, even small, like somewhat tactical things like this help to move, especially for a platform like YouTube, to move us forward to better understand, our audience, and like how the stories that we tell resonate, and how we can tell them better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100% agreed. 100% agreed. Yeah, just gotta get more people out there doing it. And
Yeah.
I hope in the more conversations I have openly like this, or the more things I post on, Instagram or LinkedIn or wherever, hopefully pushes that mission forward a little bit, of just share.
Yeah.
I'm in the process now of taking my own advice and starting my own YouTube channel. It's probably going to be primarily shorts for now, just because the editing lift is lighter.
Yeah.
But just of the things I'm interested in. And so right now, I've got a whole video that's halfway chopped up on, I built a wall up at my parents' property, like an exterior decorative wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just cutting it together. And when you're working through it and you're filming it, you realize these little nuggets that you have to share throughout the whole process, of like, oh yeah, this is a tip I've learned a long time ago that is siloed to only me. No one else knows this thing I know. The one that stands out is I'm trying to stand a post up for the frame of the wall, and I zip tied my level to the post so that I could get it perfectly level. And I know they sell the corner levels or whatever, but I didn't have one.
Yeah.
But since for the last 6 years that I've been building things, I've always just zip tied a level to the post so that I could secure it and not have to be holding it level while securing it.
Yeah.
And I took that moment to turn the camera on and make a little short about that thing, because it's a tip that someone might find valuable when they're building. And so I think just starting to get used to sharing whatever it is you do or whatever it is you're interested in can only benefit you, and if it can potentially benefit others, great.
Exactly. I love this, because to me, this is such a crucial element. I heard this when we were doing BuildWitt training at BuildWitt, and I heard it before that. In fact, when I told my father-in-law that I was joining BuildWitt back whenever it was, 2 years ago, whatever, my father-in-law has been in construction, ran his own business for 35 years. He has just a wealth of knowledge, and he was so excited when I told him, like, hey, I'm going to go. This company is building a platform for training videos for construction, and he was like, man, I'd love to do that. Like, I wish I could, do that. And every time I talk to people who have been in the industry for a while, and they voice that same thing, and I'm getting, I love what we were able to do with BuildWitt training, and all the amazing partners that came on board to share knowledge there. But I also love to see more people get beyond the belief that someone else has to do this. That somebody who's smart with videos or good at showing up on camera needs to do this. Please, if you are in construction and you know things, we need to know them. Chase just shares what you just shared with me is, even though I've been in construction and around, I've framed houses before, and I've never zip tied a level to a post. That's awesome. That's a great idea. And I love seeing people share this kind of stuff, but there's so much of this out there that's on job sites across the country right now, but it's in the heads of people who are in their late 40s or their late 50s or their late 60s that are out working, and just all of that knowledge is retiring soon. It's all going away. And when they walk off that job site, when they retire, we lose that. And so if that's, anybody that watches this video, 1 second. My 2-year-old just walked in and is fighting as he gets brought back out of the bedroom. I don't know how much my microphone picked up, but I probably was good. Anyway.
Yeah, all good. All good. Yeah, I mean, I think to that point, it's not even just construction. I think if you can show somebody anything you're doing and pass that knowledge or that wisdom on, and someone can carry that with them the rest of their lives without even having to ever try to stand a post up, but when that one day comes that they need to, they've got that. I think that's huge. And we would preach that all the time at BuildWitt of, you think, a lot of these companies or even just people think that by sharing what I know, I become less valuable because now I've shared my secret. You have to dial that back. I'm showing you how to zip tie a level to a post. I'm not showing you the intricacies of building a wall. But this one specific niche thing could help you do something down the road. I'm not giving you all of my knowledge. I'm not giving you the tools to build the business, to build a building company. I'm showing you this one thing, and it's a win-win. You are watching the content, helping me grow my thing. I'm teaching you something, so it's an equal return on investment and effort and everything. It pays so much to everybody to share what you know, because ultimately it's only going to push all of us forward all the time.
Exactly, man. I love that. And if I can in any way convince or show someone the light on this, I think we have so much room for, whether it's in construction or outside, like you said, but we have so much room for this knowledge, and like people who have experience, who have people who have lessons that they've learned, mistakes that they've made, that like a lot of times we feel like, well, this is just the way that you learn stuff, but that's not necessarily the case. Like, we can share this, we can share what we know with other people, and then we can move, potentially impact a lot of people. You don't have to have 1 million views on your video, but if you have 50 views on your video, and those 50 people watched your video and actually can use something that you learned and that you were shared with them, you're impacting 50 people. Imagine trying to get that many people together in a room or on a job site or whatever. Like, you
gather around and let's all watch this one thing.
Exactly.
Like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, we cannot pass on knowledge that way, in like a way that's going to reach as many people as can if you put your video on wherever you want to put it. Like, I don't care. Put it on Facebook, on YouTube, try out TikTok, give it a shot. Like, doesn't matter, young, old, like you're just starting or you've been, in your career for 40 years. Let's get that sharing happening. That's what's going to really, I think, level up the ability to just, to spread that knowledge, spread it around.
Yeah. People, everyone's just got to ditch the mindset of, I'm helping out the competition. It's like, there is no competition. The world is huge.
Yeah.
The world is huge. And if you think sharing a tip or something is gonna hinder your sales, it's not. Like, it's not.
Right.
In fact, people, on your competitor's job site or your competitor, if ever they are talking to somebody and say, hey, I learned this little tip from Isaac on his Instagram or whatever, now it comes back to you. Like, so it's just, it's a mentality that even I, still struggle with, of like, can I open the curtain much? The job I had before BuildWitt, the art director would always come into my office and say, we have a presentation later today. Don't show anybody how the sausage is made. Don't let them in here when you're editing. If they walk in here, close the editing window. Like, you can, work on it, And I always thought that was weird. And then, after I've had the job at BuildWitt and have gotten that scope to look back through, I'm saying to myself whenever I go to their YouTube channel, yeah, this is why you guys don't have a loyal following and none of your videos are being seen. And, you're so scared to branch out from being corporate or from being polished or whatever it is, that you're not letting yourself be vulnerable to potentially grow. People can't relate to perfect,
right?
And I think that's a big roadblock too for a lot of people to start making content, is they want their first piece of content to be 4K and a polished edit with the coolest music and the coolest transitions. And it's not about that. It's about starting. The video you make today will be worse than the video you make tomorrow, and it will be worse than the video you make next week. But the video you make in a year is going to be 100 times better than the video you made today. So it's just about starting and starting to share that. You'll figure out, like you said, all the little tactile intricacies as you get going. Intricacies right there would be a good word to use the AI to fix. But yeah, you just have to start and stop putting this roadblock in front of yourself of, I only have an iPhone, or, I can't afford a videographer, or whatever the thing is. One, take it with your phone,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just start sharing what you know. Don't worry. Like, the polish can come later, but the polish isn't the value. Like, it doesn't matter. You can have the best studio setup in the world and the best equipment, and then if you're not sharing anything, nobody cares. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing too, is even if your brand does evolve to that 4K super polished thing, but one day there's a day that you just want to tell a story and you do it on your iPhone, your fans are going to love that even more. Because you took the time to just be like, hey, I just wanted to share this with you guys real quick. Sorry, it's not the normal quality, but I just had to get this out to you. Yeah, that's huge. Like, that connects and resonates with so many more people.
Yeah, Yeah, I love it, man. Well, this has been an awesome chat. Got into some fun stuff. I love it. So
Yeah.
thanks for coming on, and we'll see exactly how I turn this into into content.
Anything. Yeah, I'm excited to see what you do with it. But yeah, man, thanks for having me.